Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, Route the Motor City Madmouth. Have a great show lined up, World Series edition. We're going to hit you with a lot of numbers for sure. But before I do that, I want to introduce the crew. But we're going to start with the news guy to the South Florida Tribune family, and that is Jake Walker. I met Jake over at an FAU game against Monmouth, and I found out that he had a very big desire to get into broadcasting. We spent some time talking and we developed a connection. And that's what happens, Joe. That's what happens, Jacob. When you go to the press box, you don't know who you're going to meet. And now I have ourselves another member of our crew. So, Jake, why don't you give us everybody a little information about yourself before we get going with the program?
All right. So currently, I'm a senior at Florida Atlantic University, multimedia journalism major. Played baseball growing up, stopped playing when I was 18, but I've been following the game ever since. Pretty much all sports for that matter, NFL, NBA, MLB, and just trying to get my foot in the door in broadcasting.
Well, I'm glad that you joined our network. Obviously, you're going to get opportunities. I think our next opportunity for you will be to help develop the baseball show and bring it on. I know that we're making some wholesale changes to that show to try to infuse some new blood. I think JB and Ellis, I talked about it, that one of our goals is to make sure every show that we have on the network is strong. And I know Inside the Pigskin's a very strong show, as is the Sports Exchange, but some of the other shows that you have that you want to bolster the depth as well. And I know you're going to be you're going to do really well with 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. With that said, tonight's focus is on the Sports Exchange. As you can realize that it is a World Series edition. I want to let everybody know that the Sports Exchange is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of the Sports Exchange can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? Chat room's one way to do it, or send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website's www.southfloridatribune.com. And on Twitter, we're at Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes. And I want to make an announcement that JB and I talked about earlier, and we are going to be launching the Motor City Madmouth Show next Wednesday. So next Wednesday will be the Motor City Madmouth Show. It's a show that's really going to be catered around a lot of the one-on-one interviews, so I could free up shows like No Limits for more than two people about a lot of general subjects. So stay tuned. The Motor City Madmouth Show, starring yours truly, will be going next week. All right, my book, by the way, is a media book called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. And yes, good evening, George Eichhorn. Looking forward to having you back on soon. The Target's Pundit. Get that camera worked out so we can get you back on here.
Exactly.
All right. With that said, topic number one, and show is going to be loaded. And when I say that, you might want to listen to it multiple times in case you don't get it by Friday, which is when the World Series starts. But according to CBS Sports, every team to beat the Brewers in the past and the postseason has advanced to the World Series. Let me go ahead and list off this group. 1981, the New York Yankees. 1982, the St. Louis Cardinals. 2008, Philadelphia Phillies. 2011, back to the Cardinals. 2018 to the Dodgers. 2019 to the Nationals. 2020 to the Dodgers. 2021 to the Braves. And guess what? 2023, you got it, the Diamondbacks. So what an incredible stat. So we're going to start off with the new guy, Jake. What are your thoughts about this? If you go through the Brewers, you got a shot to get to the World Series.
I think it's really interesting, that it goes back to the 1980s as well, not just in the current times in the 21st century. This year's D-backs team, I really like the young talent they have. Corbin Carroll's played well all year, stealing bases, playing great defense in the outfield, getting on base. So I think that's a really interesting stat. I didn't know that myself, so it's crazy to hear.
Well, a lot of people didn't know it. I actually fed it to a different crew in the baseball show, but decided to bring it back here because the Diamondbacks finished the job to get to the World Series, which allows me to turn over to JB Ellis.
It's an interesting stat. Never heard of it, and it's pretty cool to think
that it goes back that many years.
Right.
And, it's impressive to see that list of teams that you mentioned. Some great talent, and shows what the Brewers have done.
The amazing part about it is when I saw the stat the first time, I wanted to follow up on it. You follow what I'm saying? Until we got to the end result, and it happened last night when the Diamondbacks knocked out the Phillies 4-3. All right, Jacob.
You know something? What this does is that you get fans. This is what fans will do. Fans will be like, we would have won if they wouldn't have been in the way. We would have won if they wouldn't have gotten there. It's like, see, we were this close to be the first round. We were this close. See, they had to get there. That's what fans will do. So they've got this. They've got it in Milwaukee. But truthfully, overall, you know what that shows? Outside of like the 90s, they weren't that good. This has been a consistent team.
Right.
It's like this has been with a lot of the 80s, it's like the reason people don't see it because they didn't win the World Series. They didn't win it. But it is hard. It's just like the Pittsburgh Steelers with constantly getting winning seasons and constantly being around in December. Fans can get a little tired and want the new car smell of a new coach, but it's very, 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 very hard to win consistently. So when you're, especially like 2018, 19, 20, all stuff, if you're around in September all the time, you're doing well. Eventually you break through. So eventually Milwaukee's going to break through. It's a numbers game in life. Okay. So that's just a big thing.
Fair point. Well, all right. The only ounce of football we're going to have, and I mean this, only ounce of football we're going to have, is that Cowboys owner Jerry Jones needs to drive across the parking lot and talk to Rangers owners Raydavis and bobrsimpson to get pointers on how to get to the championship round, the World Series, and the Super Bowl. Man, we're going to have to go back a ways when the Cowboys ended up getting the Super Bowl. I believe Barryswitzer got on there on Jimmy Johnson's team. So, all right. So what do you think? Do you think Jerry Jones is going to make his way over to the other side of the parking lot, Jake, and talk to these guys? Because Jerry hasn't figured out, and he spent a lot of money, and he built his big palace.
Well, the thing with Jerry Jones is he beats to his own drum. He doesn't really like to take advice from a lot of people. He chooses the coach that he wants, whether the fans like it or not. Do I think he should do that? I do think he should do that, but whether he's going to do it is yet to be seen. But he likes to beat to his own drum and run his organization his way.
Okay. All right. JB?
Listen, Jerry Jones may not have won the Super Bowl in ages with the Dallas Cowboys, but Jerry Jones has done something better than that. He's made a lot of money for 31 other guys or ownership groups or women, whoever owns those NFL teams. He put football back in LA when he worked on the stadium deal with the Cronkies. The man is a genius. He's just not an NFL GM. He needs to step away from that. He doesn't need to go across the parking lot to talk to the Rangers, who've done a phenomenal job putting that team together. Jerry just has to stay out of his own way, maybe not have sleepovers with coaches. I don't get that one. But Jerry's a genius in business. As far as football, he's fortunate enough to have the money to own an NFL team. But as far as his football race is going at this time of his life.
Fair enough. Okay, Jacob.
One of my things when I did pundit points, when JB noticed me the first time around, one of the things I said about Jerry Jones is he's not going to win one at all ever again until he finds one thing for himself. When he won those Super Bowls, he was that guy who was a oil wildcatter and borrowed money from the unions to buy the Chargers originally back in the AFL days. He was gutsy, grinding, old oil wildcatter with the wells and everything like that, who bought it for less with the Cowboys because he would fire Tom Landry, and no one else would. He was the gutsy, grinding, no nonsense, and that's one of the things about it is for him to win another one, he has to find that old wildcatter in him to win it all. He has to. It's like, because right now all he's doing is making more money. It's like he's looking at not losing and trying to make it. And to win, you might have to lose.
Yeah, I mean, you know, guy has Dak Prescott, and what does Dak have to show for himself? He's a good businessman making a lot of money. But remember, once upon a time, I think all of us can recollect, or at least many of us can, Jimmy Johnson fleeced the Minnesota Vikings in that herschelwalker deal with that boatload of return.
That as a fleecing, because he had like 1,250 yards the year before. It would just end up being a fleecing, you know?
Was end up being a fleecing, Jacob, because of the draft capital they end up getting.
Yep.
And a lot of that draft capital that they end up getting ended up leading to the core of their Super Bowl. So that was a fleece job if I ever saw one.
It was that era's Russell Wilson.
What's that?
It was basically that era's Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was probably.
And so the reason I say that is because Russell Wilson was already starting to fall apart a little, but still you couldn't see this coming. Now, Walker was like 1,250 yards the year before. No, everybody thought he would help. It was worth it. He would help Minnesota. That was a fall apart of you in a quick way, too.
Okay. All right, onward we go here. Okay, now let's talk about from the bizarre to the even more bizarre. That's why I tell you, folks, you're going to have to watch and listen to this show again and get your notepads ready here, because now, can you believe the Philadelphia Phillies played a Game 7 for the first time in 141 seasons, with their history dating back to 1883. I don't know why I almost feel like Vince Scully here rambling off these stats, because only Vince Scully can do it, but don't think I'm implying that I am, because I am far from Vince Scully. All right, so Jake.
Who? No.
Yeah, right. None of us were born when this happened, Jake, so don't feel too bad that you're the longest pup of the group, but what are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, the Phillies have always been a consistent franchise. They make the playoffs regularly. They make deep playoffs runs regularly. That's surprising to me that they haven't been in a Game 7 situation in that long, considering how many times they make the playoffs and some of the great players that they've had. So I thought that was really interesting. I wasn't aware of that either.
Well, like I told you, when I tell you I got a lot of facts, and JBL was warned earlier with our text exchange that I had them. Now I'm giving them to him. All right, JB, first Game 7 in 183-year history. My goodness.
You know, it's impressive, but at the same time, I'd have to look and see how many times they were in the playoffs and to see, and I'd have to go and see how long they had best of sevens for, because before 69, or 62, when they started doing the playoffs, I guess the championship series before the World Series, they only had the World Series, which was best of 7. How many times did the Phillies make it up to that point? Then the championship series were best of 5 until I think the 80s. So there really hasn't been that many Game 7s possibilities, I guess. So it's not that crazy of a stat, but at the same time it is, because the Phillies weren't a horrible team throughout history. So I could go either way with it. It's interesting, that's for sure.
Okay, Jake.
Trust me, I'm called Jake everywhere else. Everywhere else.
I was kidding with you. I'm riding the Jake train tonight, man.
Sorry, no kidding. No, the biggest thing is the Phillies had the most losses in the history of Major League Baseball. They've played around that long. It's kind of crazy. So not having a Game 7 doesn't shock me, but it doesn't whatsoever. I mean, this was somebody who once had a 59 win season, and Steve Carlton had 27 of the wins.
Right.
This is that world that they once were in. But then they've had angry fans for the longest time. I mean, they love Mike Schmidt now. They hated him forever. And that's just the way Phillies fans have hit and stuff like that. It's like, you got to remember that 1980 was a bit of a shock to begin with, because they just had years and years where they weren't good. So a lot of their times, really, this last couple of years' runs was kind of shocking because they've had a couple of not very great. They're consistent, but beating the Braves like this, beating the Braves like this is the shock because the Braves are some of the best teams we've seen. They just found a way. They're on a mission. But truthfully, overall, the Phillies were the East Coast Cubs. They were. I don't think – and then they weren't as lovable of losers as the Cubs were. They just weren't. It's like Cubs went completely useless by September for the longest time. So we can't say that about Phillies because it's too long to say. So it's one of the biggest things we have to say with this team is just like the Cubs, it's no longer there. It's like we're not going to get those where the Phillies fans are going to expect it and the Cubs fans are going to expect it. They're going to expect winning. So we're not going to – new generations are not going to be seeing this anymore. But as far as a Game 7, no shock because even the Cubs made that. It's like they made that, but they also weren't the losingest team in the history of Major League Baseball either.
All right, let me give you guys a very interesting story when I was covering spring training back in the early 80s. You ready for this?
Yeah.
You brought up Steve Carlton, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to interview him, but he had the reputation. He didn't want to talk to nobody. So, when you talk about spring training, the only way you survive spring training, okay, guys, is you better be able to think on your feet real quick. So one obnoxious fan was saying to Von Hayes, a 6-for-1, it was a real sarcastic comment, because there were like 6 players traded for one or quite a few players. So you know what I did? I went out there and said, this was my story. I approached Von Hayes, and he was great to me. He really was. And I think the Von Hayes story would wind up turning out a lot better because there was a lot traded for him to get there, and he was just a super nice guy. And you talk about the fate of finding stories that either fall into your lap or the ability to think very quickly, How many times, JB and Jake Gubb, that have I told you about the master of being able to think on your feet really fast in order for things to fall into your lap?
Yeah. All the time. Yeah. And it's like,
Well, yep.
And I think this way also. So you're going to have 4 of us are going to be the master of doing that. He's just young, but he's going to.
Yeah. I mean, the main thing is, and that's why one of the major reasons, I written my book. I want to mention it one more time. The book will be released real soon called Lessons from the Microphone. I'll get into that again later. But yeah, Von Hayes ended up turning out to be a good storyline. All right. Well, let's talk about the Arizona Diamondbacks. Once upon a time, I was a resident of Arizona, and they won their only World Series when I was in town. How about that? 2001. But the Diamondbacks had a 65-1 odds to win in a nlpennant in the preseason, and they are second biggest long shot in the preseason to win a pennant since 2000, only behind the 2008 Tampa Bay Rays. So when you think about that, okay, you talk about long odds at 65-1, and here we are. All right, Jake.
Well, I don't think anybody saw the Diamondbacks. A lot of people actually, I think, didn't even see them making the playoffs because of the division that they played in. The Dodgers have won that division pretty annually the last couple of years. So I think their playoff run was insane. They beat the Phillies. They beat the Milwaukee Brewers. They beat some teams that, were better than them, but they were just on a mission. And, they were able to neutralize the hot Phillies offense in this series, which was surprising to me. So their playoff run was incredible.
I mean, you neutralized Bryceharper, Nickcastellanos. JB, pick it up from there.
Listen, me and Jacob have spoken about Arizona throughout the month of September when the Cubs were battling with them for one of the wild card spots. And we always said, we can't be losing to Arizona. This isn't a good team. Well, we were wrong. Arizona has done everything they had to do. I'm still going to stick by my decision that the MLB playoffs is skewed away from the top 2 seeds with that week off because it's not natural for baseball to have a week off. So I'm never going to accept the fact that a team like Arizona's made the World Series and say it's great. Texas, on the other hand, different team. I think that they were one of the better teams in the American League. They just, because they didn't win the division, they couldn't be a top 2 seed. So that's kind of where I feel about that.
Okay. Jacob?
We brought this up on our last show, and Jake, you'll be part of this conversation real quick. I'll say this. Your generation has known nothing but expansion teams making it quick. Our generation is losing 100 games. They get 5 years to get to 90 games. See, because what used to do is you have to have the draft. They used to have the draft. Like they used to have a draft where you take all the crap. And then you hope to get what you do is you take the crap from the draft, and then once in the blue moon, you'll get that veteran that was ending his career. That'll be the veteran, the leader. So you had 5 years of that to get to 90 losses. Not anymore. You're used to seeing the Las Vegas, the Vegas Golden Knights get to the first year.
Right.
You're used to seeing that. You're used to seeing, and this is even before you, is the Florida Marlins taking it. Florida Marlins taking it like 5 years in '97. This is a little more that's a little before you, but you get my point.
Yeah.
But you're used to seeing these things. We aren't. Arizona, it's like they came completely out of the blue every time. And it's like we're in this world now where we're going to see something like this. Anybody that shows up, like there's going to be Seattle, there's going to be Las Vegas to go to the NBA next. Seattle was there before, but Seattle and Las Vegas are going to go there next. Somebody's going to make it in probably 2 years. It's just that world that we get into now. And I am shocked that Arizona made it because we did say that on our show, Confidential. We did say it, that we shouldn't have lost to them. But then we should have also known that the Cubs were barely beating Pittsburgh, losing to the Royals, getting all that kind of stuff. So losing to Arizona should not have been a shock in the first place, and they were getting better.
Well, George Eichhorn makes a good comment in the chat room saying that former Detroit Tiger Torey Lovullo has done a great job. No question about it. He really has. And one thing about the Diamondbacks, as I understand, I believe they extended him as well. So they're sticking with him. He's done a good job, and now they've been rewarded for their patience. All right. Well, you know what? Great segue, what you were saying, Jacob, because now we're going to lead to it. The Diamondbacks and Rangers lost 100-plus games in the 2021 season. All right, Jake.
Well, the turnaround has definitely been crazy. They're young. Both teams' young talents are both incredible. I saw something about Adolis Garcia's story the other day, how he was designated for assignment, then came back to the major leagues, and now he's a superstar. Corbin Carroll's obviously been an amazing rookie. So the turnarounds for both of these teams were fast. And like Jacob said, nowadays you see teams turning around from worst to first way quicker than we've ever seen. So the turnarounds have really been incredible. And shout out to both of these managers. I have a lot of respect for both Torey Lovullo and brucebochy.
Okay. JB.
I mean, Texas, you kind of expected it. You saw that they brought in some nice pieces, and they were buyers at the trade deadline. They did everything they could to, bolster their young guys, and you saw that they were putting together a team that was going to be competitive. To think that they were to get to the World Series, I never thought that. No one would think that they would have gotten past Houston or whoever was going to come out of the AL East, because the AL East is still the best division of baseball, even if they don't get to the World Series right now. But Arizona, a good young core of guys, and they, there's a lot that could be said. Growing up watching baseball, as a Yankee fan, the '80s when George Steinbrenner would try and buy the World Series every year, it never worked. We won the most games in the '80s. Not one World Series. When he got suspended and, Gene Michael got put, in charge, and he built the farm system, and they had the core four that came up, and then they brought in the right veterans to go with them. All of a sudden, the Yankees went on that magical run that lasted a really long time. And it's good to see other teams do it. There's a lot of teams in baseball right now that followed that formula, and they're getting better each year. Baltimore, Texas, Arizona, the Cubs, Detroit. These are all teams that could be good for years to come if they can keep their guys.
Player development. That's what you're looking at there. Player development. Keep them. do the best you can to try to retain them. Don't take the Pittsburgh Pirates route and act like the AAA version of Major League Baseball, because that's exactly what you have there, right? But the Tigers are up and coming as well, too. We saw a glimpse of that. And you think about the Diamondbacks, their payroll, you're talking about two payrolls. I believe Texas is a little bit higher, but the Diamondbacks aren't. And the Tampa Bay Rays, we can say what we want about them. They consistently get in the playoffs. It's just they haven't been able to go any further than they're able to go. So, but when you just look at the whole thing in its perspective, player development is really what it's all about. And that's exactly how these ended up getting there. And then when you get closer to the player development part, then you bring in the veteran manager that takes you the distance. So with that said, I'll hand it over to the pundit's pundit.
One of the things, Jake, that we talk about on Pundit's Pundit is more than the meathead version of sports. Stats and, oh, my guy's better than yours. Derp. We don't go there. We talk about the business end of a lot and the world that we see. And here's the thing about it. It's like in comparison to why these teams were so bad for so long and why they get good faster. It's little things, kind of like you think of the whole idea of Caleb Williams now, who's saying, regardless if he's nuts or not, who wants to have ownership thing into the team he gets. Nutty or not, they're thinking this mindset now, business. It's a lot of these players that it used to be, even up to 7-8 years ago with Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning would not go to Denver unless they would have won the division. It would have been San Francisco if they would have had Tim Tebow 10 years ago or so. Tim Tebow saved them and got them Peyton Manning. He would have gone to San Francisco otherwise. He wouldn't have go to a bad team where you build. Now, guess what? Taxes. You think about your taxes, which you don't go to Illinois. It's why the Bears have trouble getting anybody. You don't go to Illinois to tax things. You go to Florida, places like Miami. There's no sales tax. None of that kind of stuff there. You go to Nevada. Why do people go to Nevada all the time right away? No sales tax. You go Las Vegas like that. Why do you go to Tennessee? Why would a DeAndre Hopkins go there right in the middle of his thing? Same. It's like there are different business reasons why people do things now. It's like before it would be like, oh, that team's bad. They're not going to win. It isn't that right now because they know they can bring people in. They know they can bring people in now because there is a business side to everything now, and that's why you build on it. That's what we talk about on Pundit's Pundit and with Scott, George, everything like that. One day, JB, when you're on a background, when it's a backup, it's like we talk about these deals on this kind of thing, and that's where the world has gone.
Good points all the way around. All right, let's go to Bruce Bochy. First manager to win the LCS with 3 different teams, the 1998 Padres, 2010, 12, and 14 with the Giants. And those were 3 World Series titles, by the way. And now the 2023 Rangers. So, all right, Jake, Bruce Bochy, we already know how good of a manager is. Give me some thoughts on that. He's going after his 4th title.
Well, since I've been around, I used to watch those Giants World Series all the time. And I just remember those teams being so prolific, and they, the Buster Posies, the Pablo Sandovals, he's not really an analytics guy. He likes to just let his players do his thing. He tells them what he wants from them and just lets them do their thing. And I really respect the way he manages his teams. And, he's been around for a long time, big baseball guy. So I have a lot of respect for Bruce Bochy and his accomplishments.
JB.
He's a winner. He's done nothing but win. He to do it with 3 different teams just says a lot about his longevity, the fact that people keep giving him jobs and he keeps winning. Can't really say anything bad about the guy. He finds ways to win. He's won multiple times in San Francisco with teams that no one expected him to win as well. He didn't always have the team that everyone was looking at as the best team in the league. He's just a good manager, and there are, not many guys out there like him that could do it consistently.
All right, pundit.
Well, what I loved was 2 absolute legends going at it. Beautiful. is exactly the way this should have gone, way Dusty went out. Two legends going at both. Analytics, please. Only trash can used in this game is the throwaways toothpicks. I mean, it's period. And then the story. I mean, the guy. But see, when you get that much older, and you've been around the game that long, and you've had every type of loss and every type of win, and you've got over 2,000 wins and all of the accolades, it means you use your gut and you know things will work, and you use what's in your mind in the moment, and you're not afraid to try. It might not win. It may not lose. It may lose, excuse me. It may lose. It may not win, or it may win. It may do right. But you get an idea. You get an idea and you try it. And that's what these two were the masters of. It could be the pinch hitter. It could be even back in the time when you could do it, a shift. It could be any of those things. That's what I'm glad. I'm glad there was no analytics in this series, because you got masters you got masters of their game going back and forth, and Bochy got it. Good for him. Good for Dusty for getting it that last year. And now he can go off. Hopefully when his knees finally go out, he'll get a baseball bat-shaped cane, and he'll be the old sage telling stories.
Good points all the way around. Now, I read today that we all know that Dusty Baker's on the verge of retiring, but he says he may be done with managing, but he feels that he wants to still be a part of the game. And you can rest assured he's probably had conversations with Jim Crane. The Astros did a great job. The way they brought him on, he bailed that program out of oblivion after what had happened with all the cheating that was going on there. But you know what? You guys are so right. You really are. If this is way of Dusty Baker retiring, more power to him. He deserves to go out on his own terms.
Real quickly about Dusty, if I was him, I'd be the full-fledged manager for Darren. I'd be the full-fledged manager there. I'm used to Dusty with Darren. Because my dad was 50 when I was born. I'm used to it. So it's like the older dad with that knowledge and everything. Go around with each other, because you don't know how much longer you have with your dad like that. And I know they're close. And be his full-time manager. You've got that. You've got something to be able to get you around. Everybody that respects Dusty. Yep. Yeah. Everybody respects Dusty. Go around with him and see how get him with his batting. Get him with Dusty was in the league 16 years. He knows how the league is going. He could have the angel on his shoulder at all times. It's something that can help. That a lot of sons don't have their fathers doing that. He could have that.
All right, let's go to Denzel Snipes, confirmed via ESPN Baker's retiring, and then we'll just go ahead and have our crack statistician today is Denzel Snipes, 4 years for ALCS, 2 pennants, 1 World Series title. Anybody will take that run. You better believe Denzel, they definitely will. All right, one more thing I want to get to, and then what I'm going to do tonight is, JB, I'm going to turn over to you for like 5 or 7 minutes or so, and I want you to give everybody a detail of what the Tribune and Sideline Sports going to be working on very soon. I know you're working on a lot of things on your own, but this will be our first opportunity to share it with everybody else. But I want one more thing I want to get to first before I turn over to you. All right, Joe? All right? Number one, preseason.
Sounds like a plan.
What's that? There you go. Make sure. So, all right, preseason World Series odds, 12,500 for Arizona, 26th in Major League Baseball. My goodness. All right, Jake.
Preseason, I did not see them even making the playoffs preseason. I thought the Giants were going to be better than what they were. And it was just a crazy run for them. I didn't see I love Zach Gallen. Zach Gallen's one of my favorite pitchers. But for the most part, I didn't really know much of what they had, and they put it on full display and showed us what kind of team they really are. Torey Lovello's done a great job, as we've mentioned. So their run's probably one of the most incredible runs I've seen since I've been watching baseball.
I think they did it the hard way. They had to win 4 games in Philadelphia. It's unbelievable. All right, Joe.
Listen, I said earlier, I wish I would have put a parlay on that, for a couple of $100 right now. We'd all be going away for a while, having a nice vacation. We'd go enjoy ourselves. Instead, we're just going to watch a bad World Series.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Now that you got Dubai off your list, what's your next target?
Not sure yet. I'm a free agent to travel wherever the deals take me.
There you go. All right, that's a fair answer. Okay, pundit.
Well, JB, now that you do that, you can be an assassin for hire. Wherever the
There
deals
you
take,
go.
assassin, and you can just be like James Bond or something for hire. Go ahead with it. You just have a baseball cap. You're known for that. But
There you go.
yeah, and he's got the suit, you got the cap. But no, I wouldn't have seen it. I wouldn't have done it. But after seeing this, I'm just going to find the absolute lowest of the low, probably Kansas City Royals next year. I'm just going to put 100 on it. I am just going to keep doing it until there's some kind of luck. And then I'm just going maybe 200. And then I'm just going to make a movie with my winnings. I'm going to make a small movie because I've been an actor. I've made for movies. I'm just going to make a small movie with it or something like that. It'll be like 30 grand. I'll just make it that way. It's like, how can you tell? You really can't tell anything anymore. You can't predict. You can watch people on Twitter and the fans that think they know what they're talking about. No one's a bad man. I'm saying we can say this to David Ross with the Cubs, with our show Confidential. He's not a great manager, but when you've made it through, you can inch your way in somewhere, no matter what. Astros ain't in it, no ratings. Yeah, right. Yeah, we can't hate anybody. We can't hate him, so we can't get that. But no, we don't. Even with David Ross, who makes horrible decisions, anybody can inch itself in this baseball. You never know, and then they'll just keep getting jobs the rest of their life. It's just the way it gets hitting. They can overcome bad management, bad everything. It's just the way baseball is now. It's the one sport that happens. Everybody else, the coach can lose it.
Well, let me tell you this. Now that you mentioned that, you want to know what my next book is, guys? I'm going to be writing a baseball book after I get done with this one. I got lots of stories covering this game in 40 years, man. I'm telling you, there's some pretty good ones. And I won't use a lot of the ones that I already put in lessons from the microphone. I didn't have to. Okay, there's plenty to go around for another book. And I can tell you right now, my book here, Lessons from the Microphone, is 15 chapters. And if you really want to turn it into a word count, it's like 194 pages and over 43,000 words. Now, I have to tell you, my book coach and my editor, Melissa G. Wilson, who's done phenomenal stuff here with me, is giving me pointers. You can write them shorter than this, but the way we walked into this thing is I had the book already done into textbook format with a second, and we were able to carry two. We were able to go out there and take the two and then move them over to the master book. And now I'm going to go ahead and write a baseball book after. But this one, I'm really looking forward to getting out there. All right, Joe, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. All right. I know we have a lot of things going on within Sideline Sports, South Florida Tribune. So I want you to give our fans an overview of some of the things that we're working on that they can look forward to in the near future. The floor is yours.
So I can't really say too much at this point, so it's going to be really quick.
Okay.
We are working in the live sports field to bring different sports to Sideline Sports and the South Florida Tribune. Possibly free over the airwaves, possibly through pay-per-view. We are exploring all those possibilities. Also, we're looking at the possibility of expanding the brands and being on in different areas. As everyone knows, Sideline Sports, the main show is now on DJY in Atlanta 99.1. We're thinking about expanding with a whole bunch of shows, including this show, the Sports Exchange, Pundit's Pundit, which also includes Scott and Jacob, and a few other shows. And we'll see in the next month or so, we'll be making an announcement, maybe quicker. But as soon as we have everything officially wrapped up, we will make that announcement. And, we'll make sure that we make it on this show as well so that everyone can hear about it and find out where they can see it.
Well, the way you're going to make that announcement is not only on the air, but hopefully Sideline Sports will produce a press release so I can get it there written as well. So I want to make sure that I can get it to as many people as I can because, we've been working together a long time. And, Jake, I know you're here on for the first time. Joe and I are communicating, 2, 3, 4 times a week, something like that. I mean, at least.
At least.
Yeah. And I think that that's important that We're going to they back us any way they can with their help on social media. We try to help them out as much as we can. But more importantly, our goal here is to make sure that both companies are in a position where we are able to go out there and build a good empire, combining the two. Obviously, we're separate entities, but we're not, if that makes any sense. We're partners. And,
Exactly.
and our goal is to continue to bring in new talent, as we have one here tonight. And Mike Brazier is usually on here, but he was obviously had another commitment, which paved the opening for Jake Walker. So, it's important that what you go out there and do is, our goal is to entertain, educate, and inform. I don't care what show you're on. If you can't educate, entertain, and inform, you haven't done the public and the fans justice. And that's what it's all about. I mean, tonight came in with a lot of loaded stats. So what? I'm a stat guy anyways, And one of the things that I actually have on the back cover of my book is making sure that you have a situation where everybody's accurate, but no factual errors. We have 4 people tonight. Sometimes we go 5, 6, 7, but 4 or 5 is usually the norm. And you know what? The way I look at it is you just want to make sure that everybody gets something out of our shows, Sideline Sports. And I think one of the things that's interesting when you compare Pundit, No Limits is, I really like the magazine style formats that we have, Jacob, Jake, because what we're trying to do is, JB, I know you like to view yourself as like a ESPN Empire kind of thing, and I get it because you want 24-hour sports only to do it a bit better. My goal is to turn some of our shows into the 60 minutes and 20 version. I really like those because you're able to narrow on specific topics, sports and non-sports related. So I think the combination of what you're doing as a 24-hour sports empire, JB, versus what we're doing, where we make sure we have enough adequate shows available for different tastes, both sports and non-sports. But between magazine and what you guys do, I think it's a strong combination. And I want to put these comments up by Denzel. And you know what, Jacob, you get the opportunity to read it. Go ahead.
Absolutely. We are about to come up. It's about to get real dangerous for sports talk. Sideline Sports and South Florida Tribune forming the empire. Knuckle Scott is Palpatine and JB is Joe Vader.
I don't know where Denzel comes up with this stuff.
I am not Jar Jar. Whatever you say, I am not Jar Jar Binks.
Hey, Denzel, by the way, just putting out to you, my brother here, we did create a group chat here for a professor and the pupil. I hope you get around to checking it out because you is included. And that's a show that I want JB to pay close attention to as well when he gets time. Because here's the thing, that Sunday show we have there is going to be really strong. I think one of the things that was important when we decided to go in a different direction is I felt that with the continuity that we had at Basket Bros, Joe, as well as on Pundit's Pundit, to have Denzel, myself, and Jacob on a show together, it was just too good of an opportunity to pass up. And then we'll bring in guests on that from time to time as well. So that's a lot of, those are just some of the things that we're going to be working on. And of course, once again, I want to reiterate the debut of the Motor City Mad Mouth show, if everything goes according to plan, will be on next Wednesday night. So I want to make sure JB Ellis said, why don't you get ahead of your book? And you know what? I slept on it and I don't sleep very much, but I did this time. And Meditation Produced next Wednesday is the date. And that's exactly what my target is. So somebody will helping me launch it and we'll give you more details. So with that said, hope we've given you plenty of information on what to look for in the World Series. And, Jake, since you're the first one in here, what I want as we get ready to wind down this edition of the Sports Exchange, Jake, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you, okay?
So my Twitter handle is jwalk729. Instagram, I'm Jake_Walker729. And I don't have a Facebook, but Twitter and Instagram is where my social medias are mainly based.
Are you on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, yes. I don't know my ad on LinkedIn, though. Don't
worry about it. At least they have one. You'll develop that over time, but at least that's what it's all about. JB and I can tell you how valuable LinkedIn is, right, JB? We get a lot of stuff accomplished.
Huge.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, JB, you're next. Why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
JB_ the program on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Sideline Sports every Tuesday, 8:30, Wednesday mornings in Atlanta, 7 to 8, and Sunday NFL pregame show, WDJY, 99.1 Atlanta. Jacob?
I am, as to say this, Sundays, I am starting November 5th. I am the professor and the pupils with the Scott Motor City Madmouth. I am that. Mondays, we do the pro wrestling show, the Top Rope Talk. It's the Pundit and the Sniper, or Sniper and Pundit, depending on which way you want to get. Tuesdays, I do an independent show called Yin and Yang. Wednesdays, every 2 weeks. Wednesdays, the Confidential and this one. Thursdays, Pundit. Off the bench for Gauntlet when they need me on Fridays. And then I also do movies a little bit part-time, acting part-time. And I've also on Ricochet, Substack, and trying to get my Patreon, trying to get my Twitch going. So otherwise, I'm not doing a dang thing.
I could hardly tell. Okay. So, yeah, I have to give my best JBL. Well, I can hardly tell. Is that pretty good, JB?
Listen.
I don't know. Was it Jacob?
Come on, man. Well, you're gonna find it. You'll get it. We'll be dealing with that when I see it about a month and a half, 5 weeks, anyways. When I make my way back up to the Midwest. All right, let me go over this information one more time, just so you know. The Sports Exchange is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of this show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? Chat room's one way to do it. And, Jake, you had an opportunity to meet a few more people that would ordinarily be on this show in the chat room tonight. So once again, so that's one way to do it. Or send your topic ideas, South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. We have a lot of great written content on there, as well as the broadcast itself. Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Tribune South. Candy Ebeling is behind the scenes, although tonight she's doing a little bit of fine-tuned editing for the book that I'm about to tell you right now, and it's a media book. Lessons from the Microphone, tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. So this is a book here where I can probably tell you right now that whether you're in the media or just an outsider that wants to get to know the media, it's a book that you can go out there. Everybody can learn. It's not limited. I know that I'm hoping to get some response with students as I begin to sort out a marketing plan with it. I know I'm looking forward to doing book signings when the time comes. But this is a book that everybody can go out and enjoy. And I've been in the business for now just about 44 years on my birthday in December. And I'll tell you, I have a lot of stories, and there's a lot more. And my future, in addition to our working relationship with Sideline Sports, is to continue to write books. There's so many stories I can tell. And now that my wife has made me feel more comfortable with Google Docs, she's a technical person of the group, and I win ugly. That's all you need to know. But nevertheless, this thing is about ready to come to conclusion, and I'm looking forward to getting it out there and then work on my next one. And I will give her a plug one more time. My book coach her name is Melissa G. Wilson, and she walked into a tough situation where I had a guy that was going to do it. But then all of a sudden, I think Joe and Jacob and Jake can relate. When somebody doesn't communicate, what happens?
No good. No bueno.
Yeah, right. No trust, no communication. Well, so poor Melissa, I was referred to her, and this shows you how important that the Chamber of Commerce's are. I went through one of my people at the Chamber who wrote a book, sent me over to Melissa, and Melissa has done a good job taking over a situation that she had to go in the middle of. And now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. So, I'm very proud to mention Melissa because she does great work. And then in a matter of time, people will have an opportunity to see exactly, what type of work she does. But more importantly, I wanted to write this because, Joe, I know you're relatively new in the business. You've been around, a few years, right? How long you been in it for?
Yeah, about 4 years now. This will be going on the fourth year.
Right. So, that's what I mean. So, you've come a long way, Joe, in the time that I've known you. And I know you're certainly obviously coachable enough that you're going to learn a lot more things as we go along anyways. But I'm just hoping when you get your hands on this book, that if you take one or two things out there that you can learn from, and I was able to get my job done and you're able to learn. And, and anybody, I don't care who it is. So I'll be talking more about it. And the next time, one of these days, I'll have it right in my hand. So, meanwhile,
Soon
guys,
enough.
what's that?
Soon enough.
Yeah, it will. It's gonna, I can tell you how many hours I've worked, but it'll be worth every dime of it. It really will. And then I'll be going to shorter books. Plus, the shorter books are easier to proofread, anyways. So, but this, and I will say one thing before we end it. I only have about 10 pictures in this book. And Melissa told me you only need 10. I want them to read the content and not get lost in the photos. What do you think of that strategy?
And very true, because here's the thing. If you wanted more pictures, you make a coffee table book. So
True.
To tell stories, that's the big thing. Coffee table books are for people that want to look at it at night. Ooh, nice. Look, hey, look at photos. Yay, let's go flip through, scroll our stuff. No, you want to tell stories. Then they only need more than like 10 books. It's the ones where the 10 are usually in the middle of the book. You flip through, that's nice. Back to the stories.
There you go. Well, that's, well, you and Melissa and I, JB, and now Jake getting his first taste of this book, GMTA, Great Minds Think Alike. So with that said, we hope you've enjoyed our World Series edition of the Sports Exchange. So on behalf of Jake Walker, the Pundit's Pundit, and JB Ellis, we want to thank you very much for joining us. And we, just to give you ahead of our schedule tomorrow night, okay? Pundits at 8 o'clock, and we'll do a fire-up show immediately after we're done. So a little bit more work to do the rest of the week. But meanwhile, once again, great crew tonight. Glad to bring in a new face, one that I expect to hang around for a while, and to go along with some of my veteran guys. It doesn't get any better than that. So once again, Jake, Joe, the Pundit's Pundit, it was fun, and I look forward to bringing you guys back collectively at some point down the road, all four of us. But that's what it's all about. So good night, everybody, and we will catch you the next time.